Goldwater and Jack Kennedy agreed to do before the intervention of the tragedy at Dallas. So I think the tone of this campaign could have been very different. And the fact is, it's gotten pretty tough. And I regret some of the negative aspects of both campaigns. But the fact is that it has taken many turns which I think are unacceptable. One of them happened just the other day when a man I admire and respect, I've written about him, Congressman John Lewis, an American hero, made allegations that Sarah Palin and I were somehow associated with the worst chapter in American history. Segregation, deaths of children in church bombings, George Wallace. That to me was so hurtful. And Senator Obama, you didn't repudiate those remarks. Every time there's been an out-of-bounds remark made by a Republican, no matter where they are, I have repudiated them. I hope that Senator Obama will repudiate those remarks that were made by Congressman John Lewis. Very unfair.
Unfair? I'll tell you what's unfair is to attempt to run for president, and because of both of you gentlemen, thank you very much for your drug war against the people, I couldn't even proceed on my campaign because the cops were jumping me everywhere I went. That's unfair. Then money's another thing. Money, what a joke. You should both be ashamed of each other and yourselves because, you know, you were going to talk about how much money Obama spent. Well, you know, Bush spent $500 million in 2004. That's pretty unfair too, wouldn't you say?
Inappropriate. So I want to tell you, we will run a truthful campaign. This is a tough campaign, and it's a matter of fact that Senator Obama has spent more money on negative ads than any political campaign in history, and I can prove it. And Senator Obama, when he said, and he signed a piece of paper that said he would take public financing for his campaign if I did, that was back when he was a long-shot candidate, you didn't keep your word. And we looked into the camera in debate with Senator Clinton and said, I will sit down and negotiate with John McCain about public financing before I make a decision. You didn't tell the American people the truth because you didn't. And that's an unfortunate part. Now we have the highest spending by Senator Obama's campaign than any time since Watergate.
All right.
Yeah, it was pretty sad that none of the independents were invited. Even Ralph Nader, who's been around for years, was not invited to any of the debates. And I don't really think you could call those debates because a lot of times you guys had people that were only going to ask certain questions, and any hecklers, of course, were removed. Heckling is there for a purpose. Yes, the American people are upset because you haven't represented us. When we go to court, they don't even let us talk about the Constitution. What a joke. The Supreme Court is a joke as well because they turn down cases. They will, you know, not hear what they don't want to hear. And yet you continue the drug war. So, you know, some people wonder why Americans are upset. Stop the war.
You know, I think that we expect presidential campaigns to be tough. I think that if you look at the record and the impressions of the American people, Bob, your network just did a poll showing that 2/3 of the American people think that Senator McCain's running a negative campaign versus 1/3 of mine.
Rick. Well, President Obama promising a new era of change in Washington. So 1 year since he took the oath of office. How's the president stacking up? John Stossel from the Fox Business Network took a look at Mr. Obama's campaign promises and what really happened. Nice to see you, John. What'd you find?
What I found was that, like most politicians, he broke lots of promises. When Oprah Winfrey asked him well into his first year, what grade would you give yourself, he told her, solid B+. But to get a B+, you ought to keep most of your promises.
Under my plan, no family making less than $250,000 a year will see any form of tax increase. Not your income tax, not your payroll tax, not your capital gains taxes, not any of your taxes.
He got a lot of applause for saying that, but in his first year in office, he proposed cap and trade. That would be a fat tax on everyone. He increased the cigarette tax by 159%. And now we have that proposed tax on fancy health care benefits. During the campaign, he criticized John McCain for even suggesting that.
For the first time in American history, John McCain wants to tax your health care benefits.
But now that Obama's in office, he likes the idea.
And this reform will charge insurance companies a fee for their most expensive policies.
Then there was his no earmark pledge.
We are going to ban all earmarks.
Yet the first spending bill he signed had more than 9,000 earmarks.
There you go.
Obama criticized his opponent for wanting to force people to get health insurance.
She believes that we have to force people who don't have health insurance to buy it.
But a year later,
And that's why under my plan, individuals will be required to carry basic health insurance.
how about the promise of transparency?
When there's a bill that ends up on my desk as president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online and find out what's in it before I sign it.
If you looked on the internet for bills like the Fair Pay Act and the Credit Card Bill of Rights, 5 days before they were signed, you wouldn't find them.
And have you watched C-SPAN to see those health care negotiations that he said would be public? Not there.
There are a number of things he was throwing on the campaign trail.
Of course, politicians routinely break promises.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
Republicans promised to cut spending.
Prosperity requires restraining the spending appetite of the federal government.
But under both parties, government's appetite grows. Here's a graph of non-defense spending per person starting 50 years ago, adjusted for inflation. The spending just goes up. Obama promised to change that.
There is no doubt that we've been living beyond our means, and we're going to have to make some adjustments. Now, what I've done throughout this campaign is to propose a net spending cut.
A spending cut? Give me a break. Look how sharply the line rose after Obama took office. Spending increased $2 trillion this year, more than any year in history.
Unbelievable stuff. And it makes you wonder, don't they realize that there are video cameras recording every one of those promises that they make while they're campaigning? What about that?
They don't know that they're going to win. You only have to keep them, get caught not keeping them if you win.
Exactly. Well, he won. And yesterday, his party lost big time in Massachusetts. A lot of people, of course, are saying now this is a referendum on the Obama agenda. What about the spending, though? Do we see any kind of change? Is there anything on the horizon that might suddenly bring about a cut in spending?
No, government has only grown under both parties, but maybe this vote is a message saying we don't like this conceit. Listening to the press conference, the press secretary is saying we're working hard to fix everything. Well, government can't fix everything, and maybe we'll move in that direction.
John Stossel, thanks very much for
Thank you,
coming
Rick.
in. And you can watch Stossel. It's on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, right on the Fox Business Network, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And John will bring you consumer experiments and debates about freedom, about the role of government, all with a live studio audience. That's Thursday nights, 8 p.m. on Fox Business. And nice to meet you finally in person.
Thank you, Rick.
All right, Jamie, over to you.
Thanks so much, guys. Here's an
100%, John, of your ads, 100% of them have been negative.
It's
Wow,
not true.
100. It absolutely is true. And now, I think the American people are less interested in our hurt feelings during the course of the campaign than addressing the issues that matter to them so deeply. And there is nothing wrong with us having a vigorous debate like we're having tonight about health care, about energy policy, about tax policy. That's the stuff that campaigns should be made of. The notion, though, that because we're not doing town hall meetings, that justifies some of the ads that have been going up, not just from your own campaign directly, John, but 527s and other organizations that make some pretty tough accusations. Well, I don't mind being attacked for the next 3 weeks. What the American people can't afford, though, is 4 more years of failed economic policies. And what they deserve over the next 4 weeks is that we talk about what's most pressing to them. The economic crisis. Senator McCain's own campaign said publicly last week that if we keep on talking about the economic crisis, we lose. So we need to change the subject. And I would love to see the next 3 weeks devoted to talking about the economy, devoted to talking about health care, devoted to talking about energy, and figuring out how the American people can send their kids to college. That is something that I would welcome. But it requires, I think, a recognition that politics as usual, as has been practiced over the last several years, is not solving the big problems here in America.
Yeah, you want to talk about the economy. The best thing for the economy is you guys loosen your ties, step down, because we can't afford you. You know, you've done us all a great disservice. And but as far as the economy goes, it's going to be hemp is going to bring us out of this thing. That's what we need to do. We need to sow that seed, gentlemen.